This may be controversial, but your startup's first hire shouldn't be a human.
Using OpenClaw as employee number one to handle dev bottlenecks, marketing automation, and more is the new hack everyone is talking about.
It can monitor your apps 24/7. If there's a bug, it's fixed before you even wake up.
It can handle literally everything while you focus on the big picture.
The lazy way to scale a startup? Hire AI. And in this video, we're going to discuss the main use cases to automate your startup or your side hustle using OpenClaw AI. What if your first hire could work 24/7, cost less than your morning coffee, and handle the most tedious parts of running your startup?
And what if this first hire was an expert in coding, in marketing, in sales, financials, everything that you need to run your startup?
For thousands of founders and developers, this isn't what if anymore. It's called OpenClaw. And we're about to show you how this AI agent can become your startup's very first and most productive employee. If you're an early stage founder, you know the reality. It's a constant fight against the clock. You're not just the CEO, you're the marketer, the head of sales, and the entire customer support team all in one.
The insane context switching between so many different disciplines is really, really challenging. And not only that, you have to be an expert in all of these areas.
This isn't just inefficient, it's a threat to your growth. Every hour you burn on repetitive, low impact work is an hour you're not spending on what actually matters.
And any startup's advantage versus a large incumbent is speed. And if you're getting bogged down, you're not leveraging your biggest advantage.
So what's the solution? Your AI employee as your first employee. So now imagine you have a dedicated assistant, never sleeps, never takes a day off, and follows your instructions perfectly every single time. That's what an AI agent can do.
And right now, the agent everyone is talking about is OpenClaw, the free and open source AI agent that you can run on your own computer, your own server, use your own models, use cloud models. So many people are downloading this, getting this running, and talking about it.
OpenClaw, it's not just another chatbot to answer questions. OpenClaw takes action. It can read, write files, run code, control your web browser, and connect with the tools you already use, Slack, Telegram, Notion, etc.
And because it can take action on its own, it's not slowed down by the user, you, and can run on its own, taking care of issues as they come up, right? Or even just looking at your business and creatively deciding what it should do next and then actually going and doing it.
So what task should you be doing here? With OpenClaw, formerly known as Mopal, the open source autonomous agent, it'll run locally on your machine, be integrated. So for startups, this agentic nature means you can really automate a lot of different tasks. So a couple different ones, Nick, let's discuss here, I think would be useful to people, would be using OpenClaw for DevOps and infrastructure monitoring. So there is a lot of monitoring and repetitive tasks that come with DevOps, right? You have to monitor logs, you have to talk about service recovery, and you need notifications just in case something gets put off. So with OpenClaw, you can really have it review all your server logs and message the Slack team if specific errors appear. You can also create skills that allow the agent to restart crashed services or clear a full cache via simple WhatsApp command. And you can also integrate it with your CI/CD pipeline to provide status updates to perform your final sanity checks. Nick, why don't we discuss what it can do maybe with some other use cases?
Well, on DevOps, it is interesting. Like most certainly any company already has infrastructure put in place to make sure that or scripts, code, services put in place to make sure that their infrastructure is up and running, right? But wouldn't it be nice to just have this on top? Because so many times the reason infrastructure goes down is because of things you just don't anticipate, right? If you knew what was going to come up, like it probably wouldn't be an issue. And the fact that this is running all the time and is very intelligent, it can look at what actually happens, an exception, see if it could actually fix it on its own. And because it can get in your Slack, in your WhatsApp, your text messages, if it can figure it out, then it could message the right person and really first find out who the right person is, look at the GitHub log, see who committed the last code that the offending code, right? And message that person. It's just like It really is like having someone just constantly watch all your logs. I could see this
Well,
being really useful.
let me ask you this, Nick. You've
Yeah.
got a startup, you've done a number of startups, you've had successful exits. What are usually some of the first employees you hire when you're doing a startup? And how might you rethink that now with the newest AI tool stack, including OpenClaw?
Okay, so it usually is very dependent on what you want your company to be absolutely best at, right? If you're very design forward, you want to find the absolute best designer in the world as your first or very early employee. If it's very sales driven, you want someone near the top that really knows sales. If it's not already your co-founder, right? How does that change with this? Well, you could just get a lot more done on your own before you have to go and bother hiring, right? I mean, any founder, the main thing they bring to the table is initiative, right?
Yeah.
You need initiative and you almost by definition have that. So if you have the tools and the ability to go and learn how to do something, like it may put off hiring for a while, which really means we may start seeing single person $1 billion companies.
Ooh, I'm gonna build one of those, Nick. Well, stay tuned next week, listeners. You're gonna be waiting. So
I think you
I'm also
should.
one. I'm gonna see if I can do it. So I think the other interesting part now is when you start. It's not only the first hires, but you're working to these milestones of fundraising, right? You've got your seed fundraising, your Series A, your Series B, and I'm curious now with the fundraising ecosystem. If you are a startup looking to raise money, and let's say seed money, maybe a little more informal, Series A, if you're going to these investors and asking for money, I would anticipate they're asking you, how are you using AI agents? And are you hiring when you don't have to? Like, I wonder if this is going to be a prerequisite to get funding, that you've automated a lot of positions with AI that will help reduce your spend and therefore extend your runway. Do you think that that is happening right now when startups go to ask for funding? Is there requirements around using AI?
Well, when you are getting funding, especially early funding, it usually doesn't get into the weeds on how you're actually doing stuff, right? But I will say that if a new company now is not using AI and not coding with AI, it would be bizarre and it would be maybe a red flag. Really, I
Yeah.
mean, what investors in early companies look at are more either the vision, the founders themselves, and then the traction. And so it doesn't really show up with what they're looking at, like how you're actually getting the traction. If you want to code by hand and you're getting great traction and you've got a great team and that's just how you want to do it, an investor maybe wouldn't care, right? They wouldn't know, right? They would just care about the numbers that they care about, but it would be bizarre. I have heard that within companies, that a lot of companies, they'll have their own AI coding setups, Claude Code, and like if you're not using them, it's like kind of weird. Why are you
Yeah.
wasting time writing by hand? They've gotten so good. A year ago it maybe wasn't like that. And so many people have put out like, "Hey, I tried AI coding for 2 years and now I'm back to coding by hand." And like people love reading those articles. It's like a hipster thing. I get it, but like I don't know, these agents are getting so good that it just makes so much more sense to be instead kind of a coordinator between agents writing code for you.
Yeah, that seems to be the more valuable skill in 2026 is
Yeah, it is.
if
It is a skill and it's hard.
it is because there are a lot of AI tools out there, and it can be overwhelming for people. And because so many different use cases that have so many different disciplines that affect so many different roles, that you've got to really have a better, I would say, like business acumen of what the business needs to do, rather than the specific niches of what a software developer, marketer, DevOps. You don't have to be the expert in one of those fields. You have to basically be the expert in coordinating the agents to execute those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are tools being built for that. Gas Town is one people are talking about. I mean, people are setting up so you have like 20 coding agents just like constantly running that you're monitoring all the time. It's unbelievable how quickly the software world has changed over the past year. And we're in the thick of the changes too. Like the changes are starting to happen even faster. Every week there's the coolest tool that you have to use. Otherwise you're going to fall behind. It's just wild.
Yeah, it is. The software and SaaS market is definitely changing, and you can see it reflected in some of the, you know, stock prices of some of the large companies. They're just valuing the future of agentic AI a lot more. And the path that a lot of the large SaaS companies took is they took more of an in-application AI rather than these local AI agents that work what we call interoperability, work across it. And a lot of the apps that are out now, whether it be Notion or Salesforce or other ones, it is that kind of AI that's built into the application. So it's restricted really to that specific application and what might be integrated to it. And, um, it has some advantages, maybe, the privacy that it's trained a little bit more on the model, but it's still in the cloud. And it might be a little easier to use in some ways, but it's also sometimes expensive where a local agent can work across different platforms with your email, your files, web, Slack. But the data is going to have to be on a local computer, maybe not in the cloud, and then you can execute a lot of the commands from different apps and texts. But the cost of it, you're going to be paying tokens instead of monthly SaaS subscriptions. It's going to cannibalize the SaaS market is where I'm getting to. A lot of the SaaS business model, which was paying per user per month, they're not going to be able to easily do that when these local agents are accessing APIs and basically doing the work. Instead of having 10 extra seats, you just have one, perhaps, seat for an AI agent is sort of
Yeah.
the analogy.
Or zero.
Or is this API access?
Just build it, right? So this is interesting about OpenClaw, right? Is like, and we were talking about this briefly earlier. It's like, yeah, there's Claude Code and all these coding tools that can actually code, like mimic other software and build exactly what you need, right? OpenClaw is almost a level above that, where it's like, don't even bother writing the software. Just tell me what to do,
Yeah,
because it has all the channels available to it.
that was interesting. I asked you, could I build a CRM pretty easily with OpenClaw? And your response was, you don't even need a CRM.
Yeah, right. So like it would be uncomfortable. That wouldn't be the way you want to do it, but that's like part of the point, or part of why this is weird and uncomfortable.
Because a CRM is basically a database to store the customer information, everything related to the customer journey, and then the application layer organized for humans to efficiently move through and organize your customer information. Now, if you're having OpenClaw local AI, it already has that information organized.
Right. Right.
And as it works, it'll store the information too. So it would really have to just be, you would just be giving it commands. Not really, though. Not really. You just give it requests even, or ask it questions. It's not even prompts.
Right. Yeah, it really it's so meta, and it's like uncomfortable because you have to
Yeah.
rethink so many different things, right?
Very different user experience because it's like, oh,
Right.
let me, traditional CRM use cases, let me, put in the contact information for the customer. Let me log the activity. Let me track the opportunities associated with this account and get the dollar value and put the forecast in, and then I can get the reports out. I don't know if you need to do any of that.
Yeah.
If you have
Now, like in
OpenClaw working
reality,
as sort of yeah.
you would want that. Like we're pretty used to dashboards, and like you still probably want a CRM, but now you don't really necessarily need one, which is so freaking weird. They can have its own database. Well, how's it going to know like what message to customers? Well, either it can read all your emails and texts, or it's
Yes.
sending the message itself, right?
Yes.
Well, we do a lot of video calls. It sure would, it needs that context on the video calls. Well, then tell it that, and it will either tell you which one to use or build its own and then join the call along with you, right?
Yes.
It's just weird.
One of the really big challenges with CRM systems is incomplete customer data. And one of the reasons it's incomplete is a lot of times we have to manually enter customer information into a CRM. It won't just
Yep.
read your emails and update the opportunity or customer contact information. You have to manually update it. And what happens, because it is so manual and there's double entry, some people just don't do it.
I
And
mean,
then that's
there's tension there where you wanna close the deal, you wanna work on as many deals as possible, and, like, you don't wanna be bogged down and enter that in, even though that is oftentimes best for the company. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a freaking waste of time, right? But, like, is there not you've worked in SaaS sales for years. Is there not just constant tension on, like, "I don't wanna have to enter these in. I wanna move on to the next thing."
oh, constant. That's basically a sales manager's whole job is, hey,
Yeah.
update your Salesforce. I need to run a report Friday.
Right, right. It's not
That's it.
fun. It's
No,
dehumanizing, right?
no, it's very repetitive, and then it's also subjective at times. They're like, "Oh, I don't like this dollar amount. I don't like this close it." Well, that's what I gathered from the conversation, but you have to forecast it in a way to report to management, and there's a whole game
Yeah.
that gets played. I think having an agentic layer cuts through a lot, not only the manual work, but the subjectivity of what the forecast should be, because it could take all the conversations and then forecast it more appropriately. So it is a whole game changer of how you use software. It's a whole different way of how the data gets captured and then how it gets executed. It's totally different.
It's a little bit like software is now running on the LLM. So, software typically runs on the processor, on the CPU, right? You have code and it executes on the CPU, and now we have this new layer, which is the LLM, and many people are using LLMs to produce code that will then run on processors. This is like, just put everything on top of the LLM and just tell the LLM what to do. And it has all these tools that it can use to email and message people, or it can write code and build its own tools. That's one way I think you can kind of describe OpenClaw. I think that's one, by the way, I think one reason so many people are talking about OpenClaw is it's like really hard to describe what the heck it is and like
Yeah.
why it's different, right? I mean, if this were crystal clear, if this were like a new really great voice AI, people would do a couple of YouTube videos on it. The news cycle would last like 3 days, then people kind of forget about it. People are still like, what is this thing? Like, it's
Right.
amazing. I know it's amazing, but how do I even talk about, how do I even explain what the heck this thing is to people?
There's so much to explore and how to use it because it is just it's a different approach. It's a different approach. It executes the stuff for you. It operates locally on your machine. The way that we used to approach software and the way we'd organize it is for humans. Now the way we're organizing the systems, the people we hire, is going to be perhaps for agents, and
Yeah.
that's very different.
Yeah. It's very different. So one thing that's different with OpenClaw versus other tools I've seen is like often I'll try the new AI tool and it will be like, this is really neat. I'm glad I tried this. I'll use this when I have that kind of project or whatever. I'm immediately using OpenClaw, despite it being like kind of buggy and kind of weird. So it's boring, but one specific thing that I have to do for the current company, Avocado, is set up iPads for some of our
Yeah.
customers. And like, it's so boring and weird, but you have a new AI tool and you just kind of ask it if it's possible. And I had this iPad plugged into my computer. And I was like, could you tell me the serial number of it? Is that possible? And it ran for 10 seconds and spit it back out. Like, oh, great. Like, give me the UDID and the SIM card number that's plugged in and this and this and this. And it's like immediately into my workflow now. And
I can't tell you, just finding information is a big problem with companies. When you have to ask a question, almost related to anything, like where do I find the information? What system do I use? And the bigger companies, the more systems you have, it's sometimes you just spend an hour looking for information to answer one question. You don't have that problem now. You don't have to go through 10 different systems. You can just ask OpenClaw.
yeah, it's really putting a spotlight on how slow and inefficient us humans are,
That too. That too.
And
I think people are going to lean towards using agents for every use case before hiring people. They're still got to hire people. We're still a ways out, but it's different. What is also interesting about the open cloud debate is the change in perspective of cloud software. I essentially spent 15 years convincing customers to move from on-premise applications, which would be hosted on their own internal servers, to cloud-based applications or software as a service offerings, which is like a Salesforce that's hosted in a cloud in a multi-tenant, oftentimes environment that they would access. And I spent 15 years providing business cases and costs and proving the value of it. And now this concept of local AI is changing that and saying, well, there's value in having it local on your machine and not in the cloud. It's like, it just
Interesting.
switches a 180 from the whole different messaging that all these enterprise SaaS companies did for the last 20 years, essentially. Okay, there's value in the cloud because you don't have to do any IT maintenance and everything like that. But there's also value now in having it local on your machine and having local AI.
You sales guys, you convince them all to go to the cloud, and you guys get together. You're like, all right, now that they're all in the cloud, let's tell them they got to go back to local.
How hilarious would that be if, I have the same customer that I sold cloud to 10 years ago, and I'm like, I'm back, and guess what? I want to sell you your old product again.
You know what? You guys are right the first time.
But the other thing that's happened now is on this topic with SaaS is there was such a huge push to move customers to cloud services. There was a lot of success companies had with that, and they moved them to the cloud. And these publicly traded companies, there's pressure to grow every year. That's
Yep.
just how it works. So what
Yep.
do? You increase your price, your costs. Either you got to increase the number of seats or increase the costs. And a lot of them have increased the costs because they know it's really hard for companies to migrate off. Once their data is in a Salesforce, a SaaS system, or so on, you are kind of locked into that system because you're going to have to spend a lot of time and money to migrate that into a new system. So there's a business case that will be like, okay, if it's going to cost you $1 million to move off the system, well, I can raise my price so much every year so that it still makes cost sense for you to
Yes.
stay with our system. And that's what happened. That's what a lot of companies were doing, to the point where customers just got so sick of paying this tax to sales companies, where they're saying, God, I'm paying millions of dollars to a SaaS company where I only use 20% of its features.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every year these guys come back and they raise companies. And I can't tell you the amount of contentious arguments I had with procurement from customers on this subject as a
Really?
salesperson. Oh,
Someone that's like 3 years in, or what?
no, there's full departments at companies, and their full-time job is just to be as mean and aggressive to software vendors as possible to reduce their costs. It's just this game that's played between customers and SaaS companies where the SaaS company's like, how much money can we get out of them? And the procurement's like, how much can we decrease our costs? And it is just a fist fight.
That's a
fight.
good use for OpenClaw, right?
Just two agents.
Well, one agent, let's say, give it your monthly bill, right? Here's everything we're paying for SaaS. Here's your new email address. Reduce our costs, right? Start
Yes.
bugging everyone. Reduce our, by half,
Oh man,
and be mean.
enterprises can cut so many of their application costs. Not only the hiring costs, but there's so many $30 per user per month services they have that they can get rid of. Not only just replace, it doesn't even need to replace anything. You would use an AI, and it would do the job for you. And then not only would it reduce seats, there's a lot of roles, just full roles that an OpenClaw or agent can just replace. So you don't even need to hire that person. You don't need to purchase that seat. That's got to be the future for these startups that can compete with these large enterprises, because you could just be so much more lean and agile because you don't need to hire people. You don't need the amount of tools, and you can just operate and execute so much faster.
Man, what is going to happen? There's so many SaaS companies that they look like they were great stocks, but now they look pretty inflated. It's just going to be weird. I had this discussion recently with my co-founder. Okay, so let's imagine a world where development, it costs zero, right? Like, we're getting close to that. Software development costs zero, and all the product around it, right? So which companies could you clone? And you truly, like, the value of the company is truly in the code. You could,
Yeah.
if you take Twitter as an example, well, the value is not in the code itself. It's in the network they built up, right? Those companies where the value is 95% in the code they built are in a tough spot.
Yeah, so there's so many questions on that with the enterprise companies, and to what degree is it in the, like you said, just the code or the data that resides in there? How easy is it to migrate the data out? How disruptive is that to the business? All those offerings. I think there's a whole industry to be built on basically migrating off expensive legacy enterprise applications to either nothing or homegrown AI built stuff. So
Yeah.
you could build a whole company just doing that. It's a lot more migration work, which isn't exactly sexy work, but there's going to be a huge demand for that because the company will be able to have an agent audit all its applications and say how many of these can be replaced with either AI homegrown solutions or just consolidated.
Maybe the migration is something that could help with.
Yeah, absolutely. Migrations are tough. Migrations are tough. So having the AI approach that. What also can be tough with that though is it's not the actual migration work, but the decisions that go into the migration work, and that usually involves around, well, we used to do this one way. Now we have to do it this way. And that usually requires a company to discuss and make a decision. And whenever that happens, it just delays everything because we have to have meetings about it. Then we have to take it for approval. And then we have to do that. So that's why migrations can be tricky, is because of the change management aspect. So I think companies will have to really take a leap of faith with AI. And I don't know if larger companies will be as open to doing that at first.
Yeah, and it is a leap of faith. So, like, we all know AI hallucinates, and if you have it doing something serious, it will 1 out of 20 times just do it wrong, you know?
Yeah,
And
right.
that's not something an enterprise could bear. It's something a startup could.
No, no, and it depends on the line of work. Like if you're a law firm, you can't
Oh,
have
yeah.
an error 1 in 20, you know? So the use cases still have some ways to go, but man, is it changing. Man, is it changing. The hiring, the applications you purchase, the agility, the bottlenecks you used to face, it's a lot of these doors are opening. And what I think I'd like to explore, Nick, and do more is how many of these SaaS applications that I used to sell for a living are necessary anymore.
Yeah.
Like let's every every new it, every new iteration, innovation, technology brings a new approach, and that usually means a new technology stack. And if there is a business case to save money for enterprises, it's going to be compelling.
Yeah. Man, you should build your own SaaS company.
I'm gonna
You
do it.
gotta you should. So you worked in enterprise SaaS for years. It's sales, enterprise sales. That's one thing that is hard to automate with AI, right? You could automate
Yeah,
nearly everything else. You laughed when you said one person $1 billion company before. Why don't you just do it? That's a lot funnier to actually do
sure, sure. Let's do it.
it.
I've got some free time. So yeah, because you don't, previously for me to take this approach, I would have to get a technical co-founder. I'd have to hire a lot of developers. I had to pay them a lot of money. I'd have to give them a lot of shares. I'd have to attract top talent. I'd have to go out and fundraise. I had to put a lot of money in myself. Now, I think you just have to learn AI skills to really get the jump start going, whether that be OpenClaw or any of the the Claude Cowork, Claude coding. And as a salesperson with a non-technical background, it's pretty doable. And
Yeah.
if you look at it from the standpoint of, all right, what are companies already paying for, and how can we save them money? It's just a big target right now. It's an easy target, I would say.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, what if Chamath, he's been running this for a little while. He has this idea, I think it's called, I don't know, 80/20 or something. Their goal is to build existing SaaS software that has 80% of the functionality at 20% of the cost or 10% of the
Yeah.
cost or something, right? And that's totally possible now. I mean, that seemed like a stretch when he first talked about it a couple of years ago, but it was like, yeah, of course you could do that, right? People are locked into these contracts or they're having, they don't want to migrate off like you're talking about, right? But things are starting to crack. Like maybe a tool to help you migrate would be the thing that would really allow people to move off of a lot of these systems. I don't know. It's weird. So with all these changes for you, is this exciting or is this like kind of scary and overwhelming?
Yeah, good question. For me, it's exciting because I don't currently work for an enterprise SaaS company. I'm not looking for a job. For those people who are out there still trying to, increase the amount of seats customers will buy of their SaaS application, it's a pretty hard sell right now. It's a pretty hard sell right now. Those employees who have a lot of shares in their company, their SaaS, they took a haircut this last year. They took a
Man,
haircut this last year. Not all. Some companies have done pretty well, but a lot of the large SaaS companies have gone down. So I think in general, for the traditional enterprise, whether they be a salesperson or developer or so on, this last year has been exciting and concerning because it does threaten their livelihood and the way they make money, which is part of the reason why I did leave. Which is part of the reason why I did leave enterprise SaaS. I felt I'd hit my goal, and I felt like, you know what, the tides are changing here. And
really, you were feeling it already, what, a year ago or 2 years ago?
yeah, because AI was creating so much uncertainty, even
Okay.
a year ago. I quit last May, so a little less than a year ago. I could just see the opportunity changing, and wasn't encouraged. Every stop you got to think, what worked last year, is this going to work next year? And it didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like it was. What this next opportunity phase will look like, no one knows. No one knows. No one knows for sure. But leaning more towards agentic AI does seem to be the smarter skill set to develop.
Yeah. And it's like, so many people, they're like, I could just do everything. All you have to do is just like type a prompt and then you're done. It's like, it is hard work. It is a skill set. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's heavy context switching. It's understanding a lot of new tools, right? You have to be really fast at learning. It's also like,
Yeah.
obviously using AI to learn faster. A lot of it comes down to speed, like how fast can you move, right? And everyone can do everything and AI is available, then it comes down to who can do it the fastest,
Yeah. And you mentioned a good point, learning new tools. That is a challenge. So what do you think right now as an entrepreneur, the top 3 AI tools to learn would be?
That's
I
a
know
good
we're getting off
question.
subject, but it's fun.
Yeah, this is fun.
What would be the top 3 tools you could use to reduce the amount of people you need to hire and increase your speed?
This is a good question. It might be hard to answer. I mean, definitely should download and install Quad Code. And it's weird and funky because it's in the terminal, or that's how most people use it. And it to a non-developer, that would feel very just like, this isn't for me. Every single person should do that because it opens your eyes to what this is and what's possible. It's
Mhm.
a different experience versus using an AI chatbot, right? Now I'm stumped. What do you think the top 3 would be?
The Anthropic tools are up there.
Yeah.
I mean, especially maybe let's say those younger college grads. If you can get good with the Anthropic tools, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, that's a valuable skill set, a really valuable one, because those are going to be, enterprise and startup, really relative. Perhaps the other ones, and again, there's so many, and they're pretty similar, would be some of the maybe Lovable or something like that, right? These no code developers that are getting there. Maybe that's more for like side hustles and entrepreneurship rather than enterprises, but that would be a pretty big tool. And then just getting good at, prompting, your traditional LLM models, and then refining it and understanding how best to use those. That could be the third one too. Because there's just like hundreds of AI tools. I wouldn't say, oh, you need to master Salesforce's AI, or you need to master this AI, or that one, because they're basically these smart chat bots where it's different. And then now, I mean, the one might be OpenClaw. OpenClaw and Claude seem to be the most value return for your time to learn. Is that an accurate statement? Did I overstate that?
I agree. Everyone should download and install carefully install OpenClaw, not just to use, maybe use it, but I think it helps you understand what this thing is and what's coming, right? A lot of this stuff is really hard to put into words. It's really hard to talk about. I mean, ChatGPT was like that. How many times do you try and once you used it and you were like, had your aha moments, how hard was it to explain that to someone, right? To like your parents, like what this thing is. You can just enter anything into it and it'll like tell you what it is. Like Google? Like, no, not Google. It's like smart. right? Like so many of these tools, you just need to try it to kind of get it. And OpenClaw is kind of like that. It's hard to install though.
So that's sort of the blocker right now is that it is hard to perhaps access, install, and learn for people who might not be as tech savvy, right? I think that will get better. I think you can hire people even like on Upwork or so on just to get you started with it. I'd like to get it to get all in
A
action.
human?
Yeah, you could just to get it set up. So what would be the I wonder what would be the priority though? Would you say learning OpenClaw or learning like a Claude Cowork, right? Because it maybe depends on the use case, but if I'm comparing the two, like what do you actually need? With Claude Cowork, you can code, design, you can write. It is kind of an active building tool where OpenClaw, it's sort of its secondary nature, where OpenClaw, you're just messaging through Telegram or so on. The automation, though, in Claude Cowork, it's the task-based stuff. Where OpenClaw, you just basically, it's so proactive with the automation. And
I
then
haven't
you can't,
tried Cowork yet. Have you tried Cowork yet?
slightly, it's more desktop
You
focused.
have. Okay. Yeah.
And then OpenClaw is going to be a lot more like from your mobile applications. It's just a different user
Well,
experience.
OpenClaw, it's actually I haven't used it much. I don't even know if I've messaged it. A lot of people tout, okay, well you can message it through iMessage or WhatsApp, but like it running on your own computer and performing terminal commands is where I find it most useful and
Yes.
most interesting. And I wonder
24/7
if it's
monitoring.
comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that it's kind of unleashed. I wonder if it's comparable to Claude Cowork. We should
It,
try that out.
it
Maybe do a little cast on Cowork.
Ooh, a little head to head. A little
Ooh,
head
a
to
little
head.
head to head. People love head to heads.
I like I like that. All right. This was fun, Nick. Hopefully users gain some value from this. We're going to do more on these subjects. We're going to explore more in these. So if you're interested in learning more about these AI tools, how they might impact your business, your startup ideas, your side hustles, or if you work at an enterprise and you want to make sure you're learning some of the knowledge that help you become a valuable employee tomorrow, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Show us some love. Show us some love.
That's the way. Like this
That's
video.
that's the way.
That's the way.
That's the way. We
Subscribe.
are not
Do not
AI.
miss out on our updates.
All right, Nick, let's wrap it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot. See ya.